let's bring the folks up, and I'll introduce you as you're coming up. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Kitty Hu. I use any pronouns, and I'm the Advocacy and Talent Programs Manager at BGDM and a documentary filmmaker with Shoes Off. I am so excited to be bringing these brilliant panelists on. I'm not going to read their whole bio. I think you all probably have and don't need me to do that. But I will do a quick introduction. So to my left here is Tamarra Campbell, who is an award-winning producer and impact producer, as well as the president of the Film and Media Alliance in West Michigan. Her films have been featured on Prime, Good Docs, Black Public Media, and many others. And in the middle here, we have Michèle Stephenson, who is an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, artist, and author, who started out in international development work and as a social justice lawyer, which we'll talk more about, I'm sure. And you likely know her work going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni Project, as well as Black Girls Play, the story of hand games. And she also has an immersive project currently at Tribeca. And on our very left is Princess A. Hairston, who is a director and Tribeca alum with her film Breaking the News, which premiered here in 2023. And she's also edited many projects, including Ladies First on Netflix, Songs from the Hole, This World Is Not My Own, Fresh Dressed, and many, many more films. So I don't think I have to name all the reasons why we are even in this moment. There are many, many things, from the active targeting and defunding of public media to the current state of our industry, and especially for Black and Brown communities, being a creative has always been hard. And it's especially overwhelming for many in this moment. So we're hoping to have a very honest and real conversation about what it actually takes to not just be surviving in this industry, but to actually find a path for yourself through the lived experiences of these brilliant folks here. But I also wanted to offer a grounding before we start. I know that these conversations can bring up a lot. I think many of us and many folks I know are really struggling right now and feeling really stuck or tired or exhausted and looking for ways to find hope or inspiration and ways through. And so I want us to take a collective breath. I want this to be a really fruitful discussion. I'm literally going to tell you to join me in breathing in, holding it for 3, 2, 1, breathing it out. I think we carry this stress every day in our bodies. And I'm also very much thinking of many friends and colleagues in LA right now. And I want to ground us in the words of Luis Garza, who is a wise elder that I've gotten the privilege of meeting and who is pivotal in documenting the Chicano movement in LA in the 60s and onwards. And when we were talking about what it was like to be a filmmaker and photographer in his time, he shared with me the necessity to keep the divisions amongst the vast majority of people is not unintended. It is a tactic. It is a strategy. It is a way and means of maintaining that control system. And so as artists, you've got to find a way through. That is the work we did and will continue to do. We're giving a handshake to our future. So I hope to ground us in that as we have this conversation and remember why we're doing this. So let's jump in. I'm not going to start with an easy question. I want to dispel a bit of the myth of being a working artist and being financially sustainable from that work alone. You all have been very successful in your careers, whether that's by industry or independent standards. And so I would love for you each to share a bit of literally how do you make a living right now? Anyone can start.
I can start. Hi, thank you for being here. Thanks, Kitty. My mom asks me this question every day. What do you do? She has no idea what I do. So I was a freelancer for 8 years. I did everything. I PA'd, I babysat on set, I directed, produced, I acted. Now I have my own business. I am a grant writer. I help filmmakers and nonprofits, art and culture based, make money and help with their films. Last year I was able to support artists by bringing in $500,000 in grant funding for our creatives. and that was my first year in business. And then impact producing. Thank you. This year I've been working on 5 documentaries in the impact space. It's been hard work, but it's been really great. And then also dabbling into sales agent. I've been selling a lot of films. I've been making a lot of deals with distribution, a lot of that work. So everything encompassing. I have 3 contractors that work with me. So trying to build a small empire.
Empire building. I'm not sure if I'm all for that. But where do I start? I'm very grateful that you started with those words from the activist Garza, because I feel like this is a moment to also look back at elders and ancestors and how they've pulled through, and provide a guiding light for how we pull through. I came to filmmaking rather kind of late in my life, I guess. Well, sort of late, not straight out of college. It was sort of my third calling, I would say. And it was this sort of the result of a constant search for purpose, and a constant questioning of where I was at the moment, and was it satisfying my soul. And so from that moment, I'm in kind of the same situation. My mother still asks me, what exactly do I do? I am fulfilled with the storytelling that I do, but it's not, even to this day, not what pays all of my bills. I'm closer to it. We have a small studio where it's essentially 4 of us right now who work and juggle different projects. Depending on the project and the line item, it covers someone's salary, sometimes it doesn't, so we've got to be like an accordion to expand and retract. I have the good fortune of having a creative and life partner who does what I do, but we have never worked sort of, well, I wouldn't even say full-time, because we work more than full-time, but we have other elements. So I am a former lawyer, came into this field as I was finishing law school, and wanted to actually drop law school and do this as I discovered this work. But my partner was smart enough to say, you don't have any accumulated wealth, you need to have some kind of backup. And so spent a couple of years practicing to create a foundation of property ownership. And it was at a time in the mid to late 90s where Brooklyn and other properties were kind of affordable, although at the time they seemed like a lot. And so right now, I'm sorry, I'm going a little too long. Long story short, it's a balance between rental income from some of the property that we own, and feeding that actually into our bills, but also helping sustain and at some times actually pay our salaries.
Hello, everyone. I have been editing documentaries for many years now, so I go between editing, directing, and producing, mainly in a doc space. I have learned that you've got to get used to someone saying, we have no more money. You have to think about, you have to think about before that happens, because it's going to happen. And someone's going to ask you, can you work for free, or can you help me, or can you do this? And I found myself doing that many times in the doc space. I started off in commercials. The money was so lovely. Why did I come over here? Because I care about the stories, and I didn't want to get pigeonholed into a format that really highlighted white-only voices. So I went into doc space. I knew it was going to be a challenge. Did I know the massive challenge? No, I didn't. Also, I realized I grew up in New York. I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in Long Island. I only left the state to go to an HBCU, Virginia State, and I came back. moved to Brooklyn, so I've been here the majority of my life. This is not an affordable place, but it's home for me. I have family here. So I chose to be in an expensive market. So that was also a red flag for me. It was like, okay, you know, my mom, of course, none of our parents know what we do in this industry. No one knows. They're just like, Princess did that, she did that. Anything comes on the screen, she did that. You know, they don't know. So, and most people don't take our career seriously. They think we're just playing around. And that's why you see so many of us struggling now. There's so many people more experienced than most of us in a room who have not been working for a year or 2 or 3 years. It's because people outside this industry can't see our skills as transferable skills in another market. So you have to think about that as well. Like I thought about, okay, I live in New York. I'm tired of moving around trying to find the cheapest rent. I am going to be here for a while. I need to start thinking about a plan. Like my mother says, you know, when I was in the industry and I was like going out every week, she's like, you need to stop partying. Like you need to grow up, you know, and it's serious. Like I do need to be able to take care of myself in this industry. So I started really thinking about how I can secure housing stability for myself. And I started thinking about how I want to create the creative career that I want in the indie space. Also knowing that I'm a Black woman and I'm gonna have so many challenges just from that alone. So I started learning that I need to take on multiple gigs. I need to learn how to be my own best producer. Like we are all our producers in the indie space. Like you are the one who's gonna represent yourself the best. You're the one who's gonna control your schedule. You're the one who's gonna pitch yourself. You're the one who's going to, you know, choose who you wanna collaborate with. However, you have to realize that the money is funny. This has been the landscape. My ultimate goal is I don't wanna be a starving, struggling artist my whole life. I don't wanna do all this work for a decade or 2 and then just give up in the end because I can't get further or I'm stuck or I'm dealing with ageism now and no one wants to hire me or whatever. Yes, yes. And these are things you need to think about, like how am I going to create a sustainable career for myself? And it is me stepping outside of the realm of just thinking about creativity and thinking about putting my all into finishing a project. I need to financially be able to take care of myself. So I started any time I would get a consistent gig, I would say, okay, I have 6 months money of this. I'm gonna take a chunk of this and invest it. It's gonna help me in the long run. I started thinking about like future years. I'm not thinking in a moment. And that's where we get stuck. We think in a moment and we try to jump on something else and we jump on something else. You start falling behind or you start offering your services for free just to get something done or be creative. It actually hurts us in the end. So we really can't blame other people when you're your own producer. So I started investing. I would buy like a little bit of stocks. I didn't know anything about stocks, but I know that I need to put my money somewhere. Then I started in the pandemic, and I'll wrap up. In the pandemic, I said, okay, I need my money to grow faster. There's no way in this economy any of us are going to work and be able to save money in the bank to live in this day and age. That's our parents' and grandparents' generation. We live in technology. We have to have software. We have to pay for phones. We have to pay for all these monthly expenses on top of food, which is now $25 for a burger, and you don't even get fries in the store, which is crazy, right? So, you know, I started investing. I started taking real estate classes. I started looking at regular people who were offering financial advice services and started taking courses, and I got into real estate and I started buying properties. I started leveraging my credit. I started being a grown-up. I'm a small business owner. I'm running my small production company. I want to build that. You can leverage your credit in so many ways, right? So I started thinking financial stability, but also building a creative path and how to do that together.
Thanks, Francis. I think that actually segues into my next question. In our conversations before this, we talked a lot about how there was this moment, or actually several moments throughout your careers, where you're really down. You're really questioning, like, is this it? Is this the path that I'm actually choosing? Do I actually leave this field completely? And so I'm wondering if we can start with you, Tamarra, what that moment was and what dug you out of it. Like, what were the literal next steps that you chose to take?
Yes, good question, hard question. My husband's here, and he's gonna be like, "Don't tell the story," but I think it's important. Right out of high school, or college. I am a college dropout from film school. Here we are. I chose, instead of graduating and walking on the stage, to work on a multi-million-dollar project as a producer. I was living it. We were having fun. We were spending our money. We were living our best life. I was doing all the things. And then that winter, we had 2 cents in our bank account. That moment was like, holy crap. You can live your dreams of being a filmmaker and work hard and be successful, and then things dry up. The connections, the work, the people, they can all leave. I'm from the Midwest. A lot of people from LA, New York comes and, come to Michigan, and then they leave. And you're kind of sitting there like, wow. So I think my moment was, on our couch, just like, what are we going to do? That was me just digging deep of just saying, again and again, everyone is like, wow, you're an artist, that's cute. It's like, this is a business, what we do, and how I can survive. So I think shifting my mind and saying, how can I make my art, me as a creative, a business? Because I don't have a plan B. I never have, and I never will. This is what I'm doing in my life. So once I had that mind frame, I think that is where the growth and the shift I saw happen for me, again, developing my business, how I speak to people, and making the connections I have of thinking in a business mindset. I think that has set me apart as, again, we can be so much in the creative space, but when we forget that this is how we get our house, how we afford our wedding, how we afford the trips and the vacations we want to do, you have to think in that business mind frame, especially when you do not have a plan B. So yeah, that moment on the couch really set me in a space of saying, I'm going to do this, but I need to think smart, and I need to do right. We need to hit the books and do research of how people before me have done this and sustain themselves.
I think there have been several moments. I can think, because, so we talked about time earlier, before, when we were prepping for this. I think on the one end, I actually push away from thinking about it as a business. For me, I decided not to continue to be a lawyer because I felt like I had this higher calling, this purpose, this practice. And so this idea of being involved in the work and the story and what's pushing you, that it is that practice that feeds you to move forward when there is no money, and you figure out the other ways that allow you to create the space and foundation for you to have the time to think creatively, but also to raise money for that creativity. One of the moments I think was really around healthcare. The choices that we had to make for the healthcare coverage, which was real. I had one son while I was in law school, and then my other son came 7 years later. We had to sit down and make a plan, like you're talking. And the plan was, between the two of us, one of us would go out and work, while the other one was building the storytelling and fundraising for the story. Sometimes both of us were doing both things at the same time. But it was a moment where my partner was reducing the healthcare coverage that was allowing his work to happen, and I ended up stepping into full-time teaching, having an opportunity to do full-time teaching. And I was very frustrated at the beginning, understanding that I was not going to have the time that I hoped to be more creative. But it's again, and we can talk about this earlier, it's this idea of seeing these moments as opportunities for growth and creativity. And those 6 years I spent teaching, I wouldn't take back because of the creative energy that I was involved in with the young students. In fact, yesterday I went to a Tribeca premiere of one of their short films. And so so looking at that energy and how is that feeding me creatively? What is it about this other job that's feeding me creatively, even if it's just providing that financial foundation? But that healthcare is real, and it's very expensive in this country.
Yeah. I mean, for me, basically, my bank account is low like all the time. Like it's like very up and down. Again, I had to invest. I had to find ways where I was consistently making money and then finding ways to invest. Recognizing that I'm single, I don't have help. It's hard to date in this industry. Like all the things I thought was going to happen by this time has not. Yeah, I have to think about finances. It is a big part of survival. There's just so many things to think about when you're a creative, but recognizing that I think the saddest part is there is money in this industry and it goes to the top down. It's like when you think about all the EPs and everyone who puts their names on these independent documentaries, the creators or the creatives are not getting the fair pay that they deserve, that we deserve. So, you know, when people say there's no money in docs, no, there is. There's all these, you know, back-end deals. There's all these camera accounts. There's any type of money that comes in. All of these other people will recoup it before you do, and you did all the work. So for me, I'm trying to set myself up financially to be a person who can pass wealth to creatives or projects that I would like to. And the way that I have to do that is for me to balance myself financially and step outside the box, knowing that I did not come from any financial sustainability plan, or my family didn't speak about finances. We were always in trouble. So recognizing like this is my time, I'm an adult. How am I going to move in the world? How am I going to make a plan for myself? And how can I help others?
Yeah, I want to dig into the practical pieces of it because I feel like the need is obviously established for people to really think critically and seriously about their own financial sustainability and what that looks like. Tamarra, we had talked about how you were kind of like, I'm a producer. Okay, what does that actually mean in terms of different skills that I have, and how can I actually make money with all of these different types of skills? And what is the research? What are the steps? What are the people that I need to talk to in order to do that for yourself? And now you established a business where I was like, wait, you're employing people? Like you made enough to the point where you're actually also paying other people. And so I'm wondering if you can walk folks through a bit of that work and time that you had to put in.
Yeah, it was a lot of time. Good question. I'm very old school. I like to journal. I like to research. I think that's the best thing I've ever did. The amount of people that I've worked with, they're like, I haven't researched, I haven't Googled. Or I'm like, have you Googled that? They're like, no. I'm like, that's like my first step in everything I do. Like really being a student. I think that was the best thing I did. I took a year where I was still working, but I basically just became a student. I was like, what are all the classes? I invested money into master class. I invested money to courses. I took a 16-week class on being a leader and growing your skills as a producer. Again, that investment, it has given me so much more so I can sustain my staff and my crew. So I really would consider, I go to the library like 2 times, 3 times a month where I'm sitting there, I'm going on Candid, I'm seeing who has the money. That's the biggest question. In the grant space, I'm nosy, be nosy, like for real. Because those are the people you want to talk to. And then again, knowing your market. Is my market these people or your audience. We all understand our audience or our target audience. Do that again. I do see it a little bit as a business. I love your counter. That's totally cool. But for me, it was part of that is like, for me, if I want to be a producer and work this market, I need to know where the money is, how it moves, the power play and the dynamics of that too as well. Who's holding that? Who's my gatekeeper? I use my white husband sometimes to get me in rooms. It works. Come on now, like, let's do it. Like, and he knows. He helps me out a lot. Thank you. And so I became a little bit of a trickster, and that's all right, of being out to figure out how to do those things. But I think the best humbling experience is being a student. I was crying sometimes, like, man, I'm working full time, and I gotta go do my homework now. Like, what is this? But it really helped me understand my place, how to expand, how to be creative and adaptable. So research, Google, do whatever you need to do all the time, and invest in, again, those other skills. Skill.com or Skillshare, that's another great one. I was able to say how I can use my producing skills to do other things. I mean, I really dove in deep.
Yeah, thank you. Michèle, I'm curious, you can add on to this too, but I also would love for you to chat about the mental reframe of it, because you had said to me, juggling all these different gigs and different projects is actually an opportunity. Whereas I think for a lot of creatives, having to freelance, having to work for clients and do your personal project and fundraise for something else, like that feels like a chore, that you have to do all these things. And your dream is that you could just work on that one passion project. But you actually gave a really helpful kind of reframe, completely kind of totally flipping it up on its head. And so I'm curious if you could chat a little bit more about that piece of it.
I want to see if I remember that. I think what I said back to you. But I mean, well, one thing I want to say, just when I talk about it, not seeing it as a business, but as a purpose, is part of that mind shift as well. So I'm not looking at the profit-oriented aspect. They're sort of in that, but that doesn't mean I don't know where the money is. I got to be able to, with my purpose in mind, know what the funding landscape is like, so that I can pursue this search for freedom in my expression. So I alluded to it a little bit, this mindset earlier when I talked about having to take this teaching full-time job, but then seeing in that a source of energy for creativity. And I think also most of our, I guess, if not all of our independent projects, we see time as an asset. So I have to, the freedom is in letting go of some of that pressure around time and the time it takes for your vision to come out. So I take, for example, going to Mars. I was teaching full-time. We had one other project that was sort of a short film that had more financing, and we were fundraising for the film as we were shooting. But every aspect of that somehow fed into how I was approaching the story. Some of it is unconscious, some of it was very intentional. But what I was experimenting with in one element, or even the relationships I was in the other work environments, sometimes led to funding opportunities. So I guess what I'm getting at is the idea of seeing the multitasking or these different responsibilities as the sources for our eventual freedom, right? And I think it's important, because otherwise there's a feeling of not just responsibility but pressure that at times will block our creativity. I don't know if I'm getting a little too heady on this, but the shift in the mindset, and I don't like this idea of the cup half full versus half empty. but it's more about what can I pull from these different things that will feed me somehow. And sometimes it's, oh, this job is allowing me to have this wonderful meal, or that this meal will then allow me to maybe sleep better because certain bills are paid that will then allow me to maybe on that Sunday spend a little time writing. So I think it's about shifting the mindset. And for me, if I had come from, intergenerational wealth, how would that feed my creativity, right? And so mindset is everything. I'm riffing right now, but I'm just saying that everything that we engage in, depending on how we look at it, it's even the creative obstacles that we confront that lead to frustration. But if we look at those creative obstacles instead as creative opportunities, which a lot of producers have to, right? If we're producing the right way, the obstacle becomes an opportunity for greater creativity. And so how do we make that job feed that search for freedom? And I think there are ways to do it, and we do it in community too. So I'll stop there.
Princess, I'd love to bring you in to add on to anything that's been shared, but also explicitly to also talk about Artist Bag, because not only did you do the work it took to find some sort of financial income for yourself through things outside of film as well, but now you're giving that back to the community and also turning it into another revenue stream for yourself.
Yeah, so Artist Bag came out of me investing in real estate and taking a lot of courses, seeing all the pathways that someone could own property. I pretty much have purchased distressed properties that have been vacant for a while, and some of them I bought in cash for like $3,000, $5,000, $14,000. Some of them I fixed up. Some of them are still sitting there, boarded up. I'm trying to devise a plan for it. And then I learned how to leverage my credit, buy other properties in other markets, and get construction loans and fix them up to create safe and modern housing in those markets. And they're still below the market rent value. So, I'm not making like a ton of money every month, but I'm making a little bit here and there, right? The big thing is I'm building equity for myself. Most artists, we have no financial plan. We don't have a 401k. Like Michèle said, we don't have health care. We have nothing. We're not even planning or saving up for anything. You're just in the day. So my real estate portfolio is part of my equity plan. It's part of my safety plan. It's long-term goals and short-term goals. There's going to be moments where you absolutely have nothing. An emergency happened. My parents are getting older. I'm going to be the responsible one to take care of them. Maybe I need to hold on to a property for the next 3 to 4 years and then pull out of one of the properties, sell it, so I have cash flow to help my family. These are things that I'm thinking about. Also, I'm building my production company. I'll just tell you, also realizing the real in this industry. You could do work and someone cannot pay you. Like, I literally, starting my production company, I hired a team, an ad agency hired me to do these 8 videos. I hired 3 women, had them working on it. We worked from March to June. I was like front loading the money. The company didn't even pay me until December. And I had to email them so many times. And this is an ad agency in New York. So, the griminess is real. I know a ton of filmmakers who say, I worked on a project, I need an attorney, it's been 90 days, they haven't paid me. This industry is not love. We got some real issues with the industry. So I think I had to say yes to other work so I could pay those artists. I had to pay them all the money that was for me on another project and do what was right by them and pay them like immediately. They have bills to pay. But that's me being a stand-up person, but not everyone in the industry is like that, and we know that. So me building a financial sustainability plan for myself, puts me in a position where I can help people financially or help projects financially or help companies that are ran by people in the margins financially. And I can do it in a different way than the folks that really gatekeep and hold the finances and kind of have you at a chokehold, right? So not only am I building financial plan for myself, I'm also constantly working on myself saying, how do I want to move when I have the opportunity to help? And so, and I think being in documentary always self-checks me in that way where it helps me think about my moral standards. Even when I'm like angry or things are not working out, I have to like sit back and like check myself. Okay, like maybe I didn't approach that right, or I could have thought about that in a different way. But Artist Bag is like a membership where now I teach artists, creatives, entertainers how to invest in real estate. I have like, virtual panels where you can meet other artists who invested in real estate and took a risk, and they all say it's like the best decision that they made financially, because we never think about the future when it comes to how we're going to live, where we're going to be, housing stability, will I be homeless? I mean, honestly, and to be honest, like, that doesn't mean we're always doing well. Last year, I was up for 3 gigs. I was telling Kitty and a ton of people, like, they all got killed. Like, one was like the financier was worried about the upcoming election. They want to pull out of the story. I thought you were about this story. So like, like now it's like the fake liberals or you're flip-flopping. Do you really care about the story you're invested in or not? Another one is just like, oh, we're scared with this. I don't know if I want to do that. So all 3 projects got killed. I was like, my finances, I was like, I wasn't making any money. I gracefully made it. Somehow I made it through. It's always going to be a challenge, but I think the big thing is, how are you going to move as a creative? How are you thinking about yourself? You do have to think about yourself. But I also love collaboration. I do not want to make a film by myself. I want to collaborate with people. I want to, put myself in a position where I can hire people. I can, help get projects to the finish line. But I've got to take care of myself first to even be a well-grounded person to collaborate with, or to put myself in a position to carry a project and bring people on for collaboration.
Thank you, Princess. I know we've been talking a lot about the very kind of your journeys and how you got here and the very practical advice around it. But I think recognizing right now, we talked about this at the very beginning, we're in this moment that feels especially overwhelming and is designed to make people feel that way. I mean, in many ways, the commercial industry has never really prioritized or paid for or funded our stories, especially within Black and Brown communities. And we're seeing that same tightening of belts within the independent, nonprofit, philanthropic sectors for a number of different reasons, on top of the political climate that we're living in. And so I'm hearing more and more of people that are just really worried right now, that are literally having their projects cut, even if something has been greenlit or signed, or can't get their money out once they even get a grant. And so I'm curious for you all, what are you taking away from this moment right now? And what are you doing to protect yourself, or what do you want folks to think about in order to protect themselves in our larger communities?
Such a good question. It's been hard for everybody. It really has been. For me, I tell everybody, the best capital I ever have other than wealth is my health, in my community, and my knowledge. Like, you can always have that. You can always grow on that. You can invest in that. For me, I do work in the philanthropic space. I'm a grant writer. So a lot of education. Educate yourself on that. There are probably 13 different ways that you can get money in that space. And you can go so deep into it. I mean, the rabbit holes at 2 a.m. It's crazy. So I would really encourage people to talk with a grant writer, talk with someone that knows those spaces, And always have a backup plan in terms of that, of how you're getting money. For me, I love writing in my journal. I love having a game plan. I'm a producer. We plan, obviously. But for real, sit there and think. I have like 15 projects ready to go. You want to hear this pitch? You want to hear that story? You want to hear this development? Like, come on now, we got it. So I think really being fruitful in terms of your creativity, if you can. I know that not everybody can pull out those things, but for me, that's where my community comes in, is really pairing and working with people. And so I have my directing friends. I have a writing team. I have an editing team. So for all those spaces, I'm working with multiple different people and saying, okay, will you invest in this with me? Will you take the time to help me pitch this idea? You can get the credit here, I can get the credit here, whatever that looks like. But that's how we move. We move as a team, and it's multiple, and in different cities. I work with people in LA, we have a team here, I have a team in Michigan, and Detroit, and Grand Rapids, for different stories. So I think that has been really helpful in that sense. And again, research. As the market has shifts, you should know what is going on in your region, locally too as well. How's that impacting you? A lot of people don't really know exactly. And in terms of the grants, they're still there. There's a lot of people putting their foot down and saying, no matter if you take away our DI, if you take away our funding, we are still going to be here to help and support you. We're going to fight even more. So what can you do in those spaces to bring in funding too as well? And then besides just getting money, again, there's so many ways to be in the creative space that you don't need $1, you know? And so really being able to use your knowledge, use your skills, use your connections to be able to find those spaces of saying, what can we put together? Whether it's just a strong deck, whether it's a pitch, whether it's a meeting or a quick coffee with someone that can really help advance. Those have been my best things where I haven't had to pay anything and something has kind of grown into fruition. For me, another thing is a mentor. I have 3 mentors where I talk to all of the time, like all of the time. My husband knows I'm like, oh, I gotta talk to my mentor. I have no idea. Like for real, sometimes I'm like, I get stuck, and I think that's okay. So having a little bit of humility and saying, man, are you feeling this? Am I crazy? Like, is things slow? And just really brainstorming with someone that has a little bit more knowledge, skill, and history, I think is really helpful because I don't know everything. You can spend as much time as you want researching and doing the things, but it's really nice to bounce from different people in the community in those different spaces. So I have someone in the philanthropic space that I really lean on. I have someone that is an EP that I lean on. I have someone that's an editor or a community organizer. So all those different people help me move and shift.
Sorry, one last thing. Can you talked to me about mentors and sponsors. Can you articulate why you have both of that and what the difference is?
Yes, great thing to bring up. So yeah, I have a mentor, I have multiple mentors, and have sponsors. The biggest difference that I see, and I know, a mentor is that person that is going to give you that knowledge, that advice, and guide you. I think sometimes even like a little bit of a life coach. A sponsor is that person in a room where I'm not in and saying, you should talk to Tamarra. You should meet her. Let me connect you. You guys connect. That sponsor is repping me like nobody else. And again, in a room where it's completely close to me that I cannot enter, they're in that room working that space on my behalf. So find yourself a mentor and find yourself a sponsor.
Michèle, what are you taking away from this moment? I know, clap.
Well, I completely agree with Tamarra and what you've discussed in terms of the strategies that I've certainly implemented in my life, and I'm also very much present mentoring as well. I guess I'll go back a little bit to mindset again, that the idea that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And so I always go back, I think about a couple of years ago. I'm a little older than most people here. I've been in this thing for a few decades. I won't say how many, but a few. And there are mentors I met at the very beginning that still serve as an anchor. Some of them have passed, but they still serve as an anchor for me that allows me to push forward. And some of it was around grant writing that I still hold very close. But to get back to this idea of marathon, a couple of years ago, I ran into this renowned filmmaker that I've known for many years, Raoul Peck, and he saw me and my partner. He said, "Oh, you guys are still sticking around. You're still there doing it." Meaning so many people around us who started many decades ago who are no longer present or no longer telling their stories that they were so passionate about. And so survival and thrival is about the long game. And what the long game means, in extension to what you're saying, is having community. And not just mentors and sponsors, but community of peers. I got a couple here, Angela Tucker right there, who I've known for many years, who just had her film premiere. Princess, who we've worked together on some things, and we were talking real estate. So those things provide the energy for the next step and potentially the next job. So for me, community is important. The long game, seeing this marathon as an opportunity for creativity, that you can explore. And I think that our projects, they take whatever the time they need to take, and you just have to sort of keep fundraising. This last film I did, Going to Mars, was a 7-year project. Altogether, I spent 9 years with Nikki Giovanni working on this, and I could have seen some of the frustration around not finding the funding, because of systemic issues around people, some not knowing Nikki and not understanding the source of her inspiration or the community she could speak to. But because we were steadfast in our confidence in the story we wanted to tell, that allowed us to pull through over the years. So I think this idea also of having multiple projects is important, but really, if you know it's a marathon, you got to be really committed to that story or stories to be able to keep going with them.
Yeah, I would just say remember that you are an entrepreneur. I mean, entrepreneurs juggle things, creatives, like your creativity needs to come out to move the world forward. I feel like we have all of us have been in the industry where we've seen the films in the 80s and they told us the world that we would be living in today. Like we're always at the forefront of change or technology and things moving forward. But for some reason, when it comes to our sustainability in this industry, we just drop flat. So now is the time to think about yourself. Like Michèle said, like Tara said, the longevity, this is a long-term game, this is a marathon, this is your career. It's a career. This is not a pit stop for you to come play and say, I have a passion to do something. Everyone in the world has a passion to do something. Doctors, attorneys, teachers have passion to teach. Like how you want to move in your creative career and where you want to see yourself and the projects that you want to work on, that time is now and that time is in the future. And how you move now dictates how you're going to move in the future. Housing stability, financial stability, and recognizing for you to be in this industry, it does have a business platform in some way. If you sign onto a project, get your contract, make sure, vet who you want to work with, find people who want to tell the stories that you want to tell. And really think about yourself and take care of yourself before you step into a collaboration.
I want to add just one thing in terms of the moment that we're living in, and maybe circling back to what, the activists you talked about first, and this notion of moving through this. I mean, my family, we fled Haiti under dictatorship, and it was violent dictatorship. Our families were threatened, and we left for here. And, we have extended friends who were killed, disappeared, all that kind of stuff. And growing up here and living this moment, I think looking to our ancestors, looking to those elders and understanding that what they have been through serve as a guiding light for us today. in the choices that we make and how we choose to show up. That there are sources of guidance, of previous moments, of the circularity of history that I think, for me anyway, they serve as a reality check in understanding what I need to do in the choices that I make right now.
Yeah, thank you for that, Michèle. I think we have about under 10 minutes or so for any questions in the audience, but as folks think about their questions, I can feel the energy in the room and I can see the emotions that this is bringing up for folks. You know, this is hard stuff, and especially for people feeling really stuck, it's hard to feel like you have to dig deep and reflect and really figure out what the next steps are. And so let's take another breath. Let's breathe in and hold it for 3, 2, 1. Release. Again, like we hold this in our bodies. So I think we have a mic potentially running around for any questions, but also, yes, yeah, we can start this way. Yeah.
Hello, hi. So my name is Joey, and I'm part of the media crew. And I have a question for all the panelists. So I'm curious as to how they are able to keep your juices flowing, even if you feel, you experience a lot of blockage. How do you make it through? How do you keep your juices flowing?
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, for me, I have to go support other artists. Even if I'm not working, I have to go to a screening. I have to keep track of projects that are coming out that get to the finish line. I have to go support. Like after the strike, recognizing that 2024 was a year that shall not be named. I started reading up on my sign. I'm an Aries with a Libra rising, so I love community and I love supporting people. And I realized that I really thrive off of following art and following creativity that is meaningful. And so for me, even when I'm down, I still support other artists. I make it my business to go get, purchase a ticket, go support, go watch something, and I learned something from everything I go support. So for me, even when I'm down, I still go support someone else.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm a mad woman when it comes to my creative flow. I do all kinds of weird things, I guess, to keep the flow because I think it's fun. We're not saving lives, we're having fun. So I feel like therapy is awesome. I love seeing my therapist. Yeah. Sometimes even before this, I'm like, girl, I need you. So that's really great for me in healing. I believe in your body really holds that energy. I do a lot of shaking and moving your muscles in your body to music. It really helps your nervous system, like for real, like Google that shit. And like it helps. So I will put on some music. Even this morning I told my husband, like, hey, do you mind, like, let me put on some like music? And I was just shaking and having fun. I really do think this is fun what we do, so let's do that. Also, I love my people. Like, we're really cool people, so I think Brown Girl Dog Mafia is one of my safe places. So being a part of community where we're so creative and bouncing ideas. I love like going into the portals, seeing what people are doing. I'm like, wow, they're doing some really cool stuff. There's never jealousy. I really want to give people their flowers and seeing what they're doing. I'm a huge fan in the work that you do. So just like going up to people and being like, wow, like what inspired you? Like that really inspires me to be like, I can get there one day. I don't think I really get upset with myself or anything. It's more of just like, you know what? I'll get there one day. Me and my husband were chit-chatting. We're at this nice hotel, but we're looking down and they got a hot tub below us. I'm like, man, wouldn't that be nice to like be there? And I just sat there, I'm like, you know what? One day that will be ours. We'll be sitting in a nice hotel with a hot tub, drinking coffee and doing our thing. it all comes in time. So have fun, shake your body, move, meet cool people, be part of Bronco Dog Mafia or other associations that fit, and find your people.
I don't have much more to add to what has been discussed in terms of strategies. I think I recently discovered acupuncture, and it's kind of changed my life. I'm kind of well, I won't say regret, but that I found it now than never. So I'm embracing that, and that my insurance covers that. So in part, so that's great. But what I have found myself doing more recently, socializing more than usual, but being very intentional about coffees with girlfriends. I'm doing that a lot more, and maybe because I've been in a household surrounded by a partner and 2 sons. So that intentional one-on-one coffee is really, really healing, and I try to do that more regularly than I have in the past, and it's really, it's been quite transformative. So reach out to those friends you haven't spoken to in a long time, and get that coffee maybe at home, because right now coffee's almost $7. But find a place to break bread together. That's been really helpful in getting through a lot of the nonsense.
I also want to add for BGDM folks, we do have Mafia Mind coming up. Applications close on the 20th of this month. It's a 6-week cohort experience for folks to be in community and to really have some dedicated time to think through some of their projects. And it's free to apply, and it's free to join BGDM if you're a BIPOC woman or gender expansive person. So definitely encourage echoing, kind of finding the community. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions if we're a little snappier about it. Yes, your hand has been up.
Hi, my name is Donhofer. I'm a painter and performance artist from Vienna, Austria. And I want to ask you, have you ever had the fixed idea in your head, I just want to make my money only through my creative work?
Yeah, kind of like I said earlier, like this is what I'm doing. I have no backup plan. My family all comes from the medical field, doctors, nurses, RNs, that, and they're like, what do you want to do? Like, okay, you're going to go to med school though? I'm like, no, like I'm going to be an artist. So I think with mantras and just like my journaling, like, and my therapist keeping me on track. This is what we're going to do. You're going to be an artist. You're going to have your business. I do a lot of strategic planning. I like to really see my goals and things that have happened. So I'll write down my month and break it into quarters and just keep myself on track. I think if we self-talk ourselves into it, I think we start really believing it in a sense. So again, this is what I'm doing. I don't think I've had any doubt. Yeah, I think sometimes there are things you have to say no, and that can be really hard. From the very beginning, when I started in the industry, like my first days on set, I had to do some of that work just because I wanted to be the producer, but I had to start as a PA. So once I worked up there, but now as a producer, I only take that. I don't do PA work, I don't do editing work, I don't do this and that. I'm sorry, I don't do that. That's not what I do. So I think you get to a space where you can be seasoned and stick there, but I do think it takes work to get there.
And I want to add, I think what Michèle was really trying to say is that this is creative work. Like the teaching is creative work, and how to actually have some reframes around that. I want to invite your question, yes, with the hand up. I also just want to say, like, not to put the spotlight on you, but I see you, and I so appreciate you, and I want to hear your question. Of
I've always been interested in producing, so I'm an aspiring producer. I'm going to film school right now. Yes, and I actually wanted to ask about your experience as a producer. I find that in industries where I'm being a woman of color, I have to always push myself and get my foot in the door because the industry is often closed off to people who look like me. So I wanted to ask, what was your experience like really getting into the industry, and was there a moment where you found like, this is my moment, like I finally was able to get the ball rolling? Is that something you experienced?
Yes. Good question. We can also talk after. I got a lot. So I work also in the commercial world in a long time. I was surrounded by probably 50 white men, and they gave me a job to produce, and they were all like getting a notepad. They were checking every mistake, like literally, like, you know. And I think after I sat them down and saying, "You hired me to produce, let me produce." Okay? So once I really decide to really just take control of that moment and seize the day, every day was an opportunity for me to showcase my skills authentically, however I wanted to do it. Everyone has a different way of producing, directing, whatever. And so for me, just showing up of who I was and being able to do that in full authentic self, I think that showcased them too. I think sometimes we are in a space and moments where people don't believe in us. So for us to believe in ourselves and also surround ourselves with people, I called my mentor the next day crying like, oh my God, like this is the situation I'm in, and getting a little bit of that support of saying, you know what you're gonna do. You're gonna show up. You're gonna do the best work, you know, that you do. Just do that. So I think once my confidence kind of showed case in that room of 30 plus white dudes, I think they saw it and the work came out really well. Yeah, just be a badass.
I'm sorry we're out of time for questions, but perhaps wrap this in just rapid fire. What the one line mantra that you want folks to be walking away from this session with?
I don't know if I can say it in one line, but I'll be very quick. You have to figure out how to make what you have financially grow for you. That means taking some money from some project and invested it in something where your money is going to grow. For example, I invested 1 year, I think it was 2021, I invested $3,000 in something. In 2024, all the jobs were depleted, and I needed to pull that money out to survive, and it was $15,000 at that time. So just think about the future. It was something I did at that moment that helped me in the long term. Okay.
Grow your money. Yeah. Michèle?
Well, I think I sort of said it's a marathon, not a sprint, is I think the biggest mantra. I think for me, it's about finding purpose in the practice. This is, for me, a practice. So every day it means then coming to it with that mindset in mind as an artist. So I think, yeah, I would leave people with that.
Be patient. Yeah, that was in my 2020 or 2017 journal, was patience. And since then, looking back on all of that, everything that I wrote in there really came true, to be honest, in some way or not, whether I knew it or whatever. So be patient. It'll happen.
Princess, Michèle, and Tamarra, I just want to thank you all so much for this conversation. Yes, all props. And thank you as well to Farida and Jeremy and the Tribeca team for having us. BGDM folks, we're going to be at Maman, so join us, hang out, and come talk to these folks. And thank you all.